The greatest reigns don't always end with a roar inside the octagon. Sometimes they evaporate with a single late-night phone call.
John Jones called us last night and retired. John Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
At 2 in the morning, UFC President Dana White's phone lit up in his Azerbaijan hotel room. On the other end of the line, John Jones, arguably the most gifted fighter of his generation, spoke in a weary, measured tone. "I'm done, Dana. I'm hanging them up." No excuses, no negotiation, no last-minute request for more money. Just 2 words that detonated a decade and a half of dominance. By sunrise, a hastily arranged press conference filled the Baku Convention Center. Cameras clicked, reporters jostled for position, and White stepped behind the podium looking equal parts stunned and relieved. "John Jones has retired," he announced. Effective immediately, Tom Aspinall is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the UFC. With that single statement, the most intimidating champion in modern MMA history vanished like a ghost, and a soft-spoken Englishman from Wigan inherited a throne he had chased for 20 long months. The roots of this earthquake reach back to November 2023, when Tom Aspinall took a fight on 11 days' notice at Madison Square Garden. Across the cage stood Sergei Pavlovich, a Russian wrecking ball with heavyweight power in both hands. 99% of analysts predicted violence stretched over multiple rounds. Instead, Aspinall uncorked a right hand that sounded like a baseball bat, hitting frozen pine and flattened Pavlovich in 69 seconds. The Garden gasped. The interim belt was strapped around his waist before most fans had finished their first beer. 8 months later, Aspinall headlined in Manchester. Curtis Blades, an NCAA wrestler with ground and pound that had broken many men, lasted precisely 1 minute. A crisp left hook from Aspinall erased 4 months of Blades' training in the blink of an eye. 2 title fights, a combined 129 seconds of cage time. A heavyweight was finishing opponents faster than Peak Ngannou, and the numbers bordered on absurd. Fans devoured highlight reels, the British tabloids christened him Lightning Tom, and pundits wondered aloud if the division might finally have found its next transformative star. While Aspinall kept smashing contenders, John Jones remained an enigmatic silhouette on the horizon. After submitting Ciryl Gane in record time and icing a 42-year-old Stipe Miocic, he promised a unification showdown as soon as his pectoral tear healed. Weeks turned into months. Rumors swirled about contract demands, a lingering elbow issue, and pay-per-view calendar conflicts. Each new delay felt like a bad sequel. The hungrier Aspinall looked, the quieter Jones became. That silence infuriated the fan base. By late 2024, Aspinall supporters had weaponized social media comment sections. Any UFC post, whether about strawweight weigh-ins or announcing a fight night undercard, was hijacked by one demand: number strip Jones. Online petitions racked up tens of thousands of signatures. Memes painted Jones sprinting away from an English bulldog wearing a Union Jack. The protest wasn't just trolling, it morphed into a full-scale public relations migraine for a promotion that prides itself on action champions. Aspinall played the role of cricket-loving arsonist, pouring gasoline with a cheeky prophecy. "I'll retire John without ever throwing a punch." Most thought it was hyperbole. No one suspected Wi-Fi would deliver the TKO. For Jones, the retirement decision slams shut a legacy that once looked untouchable. His accomplishments at light heavyweight still read like a resume etched in myth. Double victories over Daniel Cormier and Alexander Gustafsson, schooling future Hall of Famers one after another, defending his belt more times than any 205-pounder in history. Yet his heavyweight chapter now ends with 2 wins and a cascade of what-ifs. Dominating Ciryl Gane, who entered that fight without an answer for wrestling, was undeniably impressive. Flattening a 42-year-old Miocic punctuated Jones's power, but also whispered about timing. The chapter many expected, the ultimate test against a younger, faster finishing machine, never made it onto the page. Analysts and fans split into 2 passionate camps within hours of the announcement. One side framed the exit as a brilliant strategic retreat. Jones leaves healthy, rich, and statistically unrivaled, thereby protecting his status atop the all-time list. The other side labeled it the greatest duck in MMA history, a self-inflicted wound that erases any claim to 2-division supremacy. The truth may be simpler and colder. Legacy is rarely about numbers alone. It's about moments shared with opponents who dared to pose unscripted questions. The absence of an Aspinall fight now echoes louder than the roar that once accompanied every Jones walkout. Complicating matters, legal troubles lurk like storm clouds on Jones's horizon. Court documents leaked the same day as his retirement, alleging he fled a minor car accident in New Mexico back in February, stating an arraignment looms in late July. For those who have followed the champ's winding path, the pattern feels grimly familiar. A hit-and-run probation in 2015, an arrest in 2021, later dismissed, now another automotive incident. Privately, several UFC insiders admit the specter of courtroom dates may have nudged Jones to take the one exit that still granted him control over his narrative. With the throne vacated, the UFC matchmaking engine roared back to life in overdrive. Early chatter points toward a blockbuster in Las Vegas, Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane at UFC 320 this August. Gane, rehabbing ankle surgery and eager for redemption, offers technical footwork and slick kickboxing that could stretch Aspinall beyond his usual short-circuiting plays. Yet other predators lurk in the tall grass. Jailton Almeida's grappling cyclone waits for a single mistake. Sergei Pavlovich, healed and fuming, wants his thunderous rematch. Even Francis Ngannou, now boxing under the PFL banner, fired off a cryptic late-night tweet. 5 side-eye emojis and nothing more within minutes of White's bombshell. Heavyweight chess pieces rarely stay still for long. How Aspinall handles the sudden spotlight may determine whether he becomes a transitional champion or the cornerstone of a new dynasty. In interviews, he keeps repeating one mantra: activity, activity, activity. He wants 2 defenses in 12 months and speaks openly about testing his gas tank in 5-round wars. Privately, his coaches in Liverpool say his cardio would surprise people still picturing him merely as a blitz finisher. Sparring sessions now stretch past the 30-minute mark, conditioning built for marathon nights rather than sprints. There remains a sentimental lament swirling around Jones's exit. Even critics admit that a Jon Jones fight week feels different. The man walks into media day with a shawl of inevitability draped over his shoulders, forcing every other storyline to orbit him. The optics of a true super fight, Jones glowering across from Aspinall at the ceremonial weigh-ins, the old guard daring one last stand against the new, would have bottled electricity. Instead, history gets a blank chapter and future barstool arguments for decades. Yet the sport refuses to wallow. MMA demands forward momentum, and the vacancy Jones leaves behind crackles with possibility. A new generation, fighters who grew up watching bones on grainy VHS or YouTube compilations, now smell opportunity. Aspinall stands at the front of that wave, a calm technician hiding nuclear power in both fists. He knows the coronation means little if he can't defend the throne against hungry challengers who don't give a second thought to Jon Jones's shadow. As the lights dimmed after White's presser, a few reporters caught Aspinall alone backstage. He tapped the golden plate on his fresh belt, smiled with a mix of awe and certainty, and whispered, "Time for a new era." The words floated into the rafters, where echoes of bygone champions still linger. Whether that era becomes a dynasty or a footnote will unfold punch by punch, round by round, over the months ahead. Jon Jones departs with 16 championship victories, the longest unbeaten stretch in UFC history, and highlight reels that seem to rewrite physics. Yet legacy is fickle. One missing page can outshout volumes. Tom Aspinall enters with a little fanfare, an accent thick with Lancashire grit, and a record of violence measured in seconds. Somewhere, an as-yet unnamed challenger sharpens his game plan, believing the new king can be toppled as quickly as he rose. And so the cycle turns. The past tightens its grip around its secrets, the present burns with unanswered questions, and the future of heavyweight combat suddenly feels wonderfully unpredictable. Stick around, because this story just stepped into round 2.